What if that nagging feeling in the back of your neck was real? What if those hands reaching out from the dark that you believed were there were there? What if the monster in the basement really existed? And what if there was really something under the bed? Would you have the courage to face your fears?
Hello, brave souls. I know I took a little bit of break. It's end of the month, end of the year, and I'm in accounting, and it's all the W-2s and crazy stuff we got to do. So I apologize for the big wait in between stories, but I got another one for you today, and it's another zombie story as always. So hope you guys enjoy. Day 1, when the world stopped making sense. The coffee was still hot when Mrs. Henderson started eating her husband. I know how that sounds. I know exactly how fucking insane that sentence is. Because I've been sitting here in my apartment for the last 3 hours, replaying it in my head. Trying to make it make sense. Trying to convince myself that what I saw through my kitchen window at 6:47 this morning wasn't real. That I'd just woken up wrong. That maybe I needed glasses or therapy or both. But the screaming coming from Mrs. Henderson's backyard was real enough. Is real enough. Past tense, present tense. I'm not even sure what applies anymore when you're watching your 72-year-old neighbor in her flower print nightgown crouched over what used to be Gerald, tearing strips of meat off his arm with her teeth. My name is Alex Mercer. I'm 34 years old. I'm a high school history teacher. And I'm pretty sure the world just ended while I was making breakfast. Let me back it up. This morning started normal. Aggressively, mundanely normal. My alarm set off when at 6:15, some pop music I didn't recognize because I'm old enough that I've stopped keeping up with music. I hit snooze twice, which is my routine. Got up at 6:24, stumbled to the bathroom, took a piss, looked at my reflection and did that thing where you silently judge the person staring back at you for all the life choices that led to this moment. Brushed my teeth, the usual. By 6:40, I was in the kitchen of my second floor apartment, waiting for my ancient coffee maker to wheeze out enough caffeine to make me functional. I was wearing boxers and a t-shirt from a 5K I never actually ran. My sister gave it to me because she felt bad that I paid the registration fee and then slept through the event. The shirt says, "Finish strong," which felt ironic, and it feels downright cosmic now. I was scrolling through my phone, half paying attention to the news. There'd been something on the feeds for the last week or so. Some kind of incident in Pittsburgh. Reports were calling it a violent outbreak, but details were sketchy. The CDC had issued some kind of statement that I'd skimmed but not really absorbed because, let's be honest, how often does that stuff actually affect your daily life? There was a video that had gone viral. Some shaky footage of what looked like a mob attacking people outside a hospital. But the internet was full of crazy shit, and I had lessons plans to grade. The coffee maker beeped. I poured myself a cup, added too much cream because I'm not evolved enough to drink it black, and wandered over to the kitchen window to look out at another beautiful suburban morning in Cedar Falls, Ohio. And that's what I saw in Mrs. Henderson. She was kneeling in her backyard, and for a split second, maybe half a second, my brain tried to sell me a rational explanation. She's gardening. She's looking for something. She dropped her pills in the grass and she's looking for them. Then I saw Gerald on the ground next to her, and the blood, and the way she was moving, and my brain just stopped trying to explain things. Gerald was on his back. His left arm was extending out to the side at a weird angle, and Mrs. Henderson had her face buried in the crook of his elbow. She was making these sounds, wet, enthusiastic sounds, like someone eating ribs at a barbecue. His arm was moving, not like he was fighting back, but like the force of her biting and tearing was causing it to jerk around. I dropped my coffee mug. It hit the floor and exploded, and hot coffee splashed across my bare feet. But I didn't move. Couldn't move. I just stood there watching as Mrs. Henderson, who'd brought me homemade cookies when I moved in, who always waved to me when she saw me getting my mail, who told me about every single one of her grandchildren in excruciating detail, raised her head, and I saw her face. Her mouth was red. Her chin was red. The front of her nightgown was red. And her eyes. Her eyes were wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. They were open, but there was nothing behind them. Like I'm looking at a house where someone left all the lights on, but nobody's home. She looked right at me, made eye contact through the window, and then she went back to feeding. I stumbled backward, slipped in the coffee, and caught myself on the counter. My heart was trying to escape through my ribcage. I felt cold and hot at the same time. Then with this high-pitched ringing in my ears that I slowly realized was me, making some kind of sound that wasn't quite a scream. "Call 911, I said out loud in my empty apartment. "Call 911, you fucking idiot." My phone was on the counter. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 times to unlock it. I pulled up the keypad, dialed 911, and brought it to my ear. Busy signal. I pulled the phone away, stared at it like it betrayed me, and tried again. Busy signal. Come on, come on, come on! I tried a 3rd time, a 4th time. On the 5th try, it started ringing. Hope surged in my chest. It rang, and rang, and rang, and rang. No one picked up. I stood there in my kitchen, in my running 5K I never ran in t-shirt and boxers, with coffee all over the floor and my elderly neighbor eating her husband in the backyard, and I felt reality start to crack around the edges. The phone was still ringing in my ear when I heard the first siren in the distance, then another, then more, all overlapping, coming from different directions. It sounded like every emergency vehicle in Cedar Falls was mobilizing at once. I hung up and immediately tried calling my sister, Rachel. She lived 20 minutes away in Riverside with her husband, Tom, and their 2 kids. The phone rang 4 times and went to voicemail. "Rach, it's me. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Call me back." I stopped. Because what the hell was I supposed to say? Your neighbor is eating people? The world's ending? Just call me back, please. I tried my parents next. They were retired, living in Florida, far away from whatever this was. My dad picked up on the 2nd ring. "Alex? Bit early for you, isn't it?" The sound of his voice, normal, unconcerned, alive, made something loosen in my chest. Dad, something's happening here. I don't know what it is, but..." "We're watching it on the news right now," he interrupted. "It's all over the country, son. Started in Pittsburgh last week, but it's spreading fast. They're saying it's some kind of rabies mutation. That doesn't make any damn sense. You okay? You somewhere safe?" I looked out the window. Mrs. Henderson was still there, still feeding. As I watched, she tore off a piece of Gerald's arm and stuffed it into her mouth. I'm in my apartment. I just watched my neighbor attack her husband. Dad, she's eating him. There was a pause. I could hear my mother's voice in the background, high and worried, asking what was wrong. "Lock your doors," my dad said. His voice had changed. It was the voice he'd used when I was a kid and he was serious, when there was no room for argument. "Lock every door and window. Don't go outside. Do you have food? Water?" Yeah, some. I was going to go shopping this week." "Whatever you have will have to do. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone unless you're absolutely sure who they are. The news is saying these people are aggressive, violent. They're calling it an infection. But honestly, Alex, I don't think they know what the hell it is yet." "What do I do?" "Stay put. Stay safe. We're going to figure this out. I'll call you back in an hour, okay? 1 hour. Keep your phone charged." "Okay, Dad. I love you, son. We're going to get through this." He hung up before I could say it back. I stood there for a moment, phone in hand, and then I moved. My dad was right. Lock the doors. That was something concrete, something I could do. I went to the front door first. It was already locked. I'm not an idiot, but I checked it anyway, then slid the chain across the lock. I'd always thought the chain lock was pointless, something that looked secure but wouldn't actually stop anyone determined. Now I wished it was thicker. The windows next. My apartment had 6 windows. 2 in the living room facing the street, 2 in the bedroom facing the parking lot, 1 in the kitchen facing the Hendersons' house, and 1 in the bathroom that was too small for anything larger than a cat to crawl through. I went to each one, checked the locks, closed the blinds and curtains. When I got to the kitchen window, I made the mistake of looking out again before closing the blinds. Gerald wasn't moving anymore. Mrs. Henderson was still eating. And there was someone else in the yard now. I felt my stomach drop. It was Mr. Adams, from 3 houses down. He was walking across the Hendersons' lawn with their weird, shambling gait, like he'd forgotten how legs worked. His shirt was torn and there was blood on his chest, but he didn't seem to notice or care. He was going straight for the Hendersons and Gerald. I should close the blinds, I thought. I should stop watching this. I didn't close the blinds. Mr. Adams reached the Hendersons and dropped to his knees. Mrs. Henderson looked at him, and for a second, I thought she was going to attack him too. But she didn't. She just went back to eating, and Mr. Adams joined her, both of them kneeling over Gerald's body like it was a goddamn buffet. I closed the blinds, backed away from the window. The ringing in my ears was back. My apartment felt smaller suddenly. The walls too close. I needed to think. I needed to make a plan. But my brain felt like it was moving through mud. Every thought slow and sticky. Inventory. That's what they always say to do in survival situations, right? Take stock of what you have. I went to the kitchen cabinets and started pulling things out. 2 cans of soup, 1 can of tuna, a box of pasta, some rice, peanut butter, cereal. I counted 6 granola bars in a box in the back of the pantry. In the fridge, milk that would go bad in a few days, some leftover Chinese food, eggs, cheese, half a case of beer. Water. I had water in bottles. 3 left from a pack of 12. The tap still worked. But for how long? I pulled every pot, pitcher, and empty bottle I could find and started filling them with water. The entire time, I kept listening for sounds from outside. More sirens. Some shouting in the distance. A car alarm going off somewhere. And underneath it all, more screaming. Always more screaming. My phone rang and I lunged for it. Rachel's name on the screen. Rach! Alex! Oh my god! Alex! We can't get out. They're everywhere. There's so many of them and Tom went to go get the car and he's not back and I can't... Rachel, slow down. Where are you? We're at home. We're in the house. The kids are scared, Alex. Maddie won't stop crying and Jake keeps asking what's happening and I don't know what to tell him. Tom went to get the car from the garage. Her voice broke into a sob. My heart was hammering. Is Tom okay? Did you see what happened? He made it back inside, but he's hurt. Something bit him. One of those things bit him on the shoulder and there's so much blood and... Put pressure on it. Get towels. Put pressure on the wound. Is it deep? I don't know. Alex, what's happening? Why is this happening? I wanted to tell her it would be okay. I wanted to tell her I'd come get them. That I'd drive over right now and we'd figure this out together. But I looked at my locked door. Thought about Mrs. Henderson and Mr. Adams. Thought about the busy signals when I called 911 and the sirens that wouldn't stop. Stay inside, I heard myself say. Keep the doors locked. Don't let anyone in. I'll figure something out. I'll call you back. Alex, please, we need... I'll call you back. I hung up before she could say anything else, and immediately felt like the worst brother in the history of brothers. But what was I supposed to do? I was 2 miles away and I didn't even know if the streets were safe. I didn't know if anything was safe. I needed information. Real information. Not just the screaming and the sirens and the horror show in the Hendersons' backyard. I turned on the TV and started flipping through channels. Most were showing the emergency broadcast signal. But on CNN, there was a news anchor looking haggard and terrified. His tie loosened and his hair a mess. Reports coming in from all 50 states now. The infection, or whatever it is, appears to be spread through bites. The CDC is calling it an unprecedented epidemic crisis. Victims display extreme aggression and seem to have lost all higher brain function. They attack without provocation and appear to be... He paused, and I could see him struggling with the words. Appear to be consuming human flesh. The military has been deployed in major cities. Citizens are advised to shelter in place. Avoid contact with anyone displaying symptoms and... The feed cut out. For a few seconds, there was just static. And then it switched to the emergency broadcast signal. I flipped to the local news. A reporter was in the field somewhere downtown, and behind him, I could see chaos. People running, cars crashing into each other, and figures shambling between them, chasing, grabbing, pulling people down. We're at 3rd and Main, the reporter was saying, and his voice was shaking. The police are completely overwhelmed. I've witnessed at least a dozen attacks in the last 20 minutes. These people, these infected individuals, they don't respond to commands. They don't seem to feel pain. I saw an officer empty his entire... Something grabbed him from behind. The camera jerked wildly as the cameraman started backing up. The reporter screamed, and then he went down under a mob of bodies and the feed cut out. Emergency broadcast signal. I turned off the TV. My apartment was quiet except for the sirens outside. I sat on my couch and tried to process what I'd just seen, what I'd just heard. Try to make it fit into a worldview where things made sense, where there were rules and order, and tomorrow we'd go to work and complain about traffic and argue about politics and live your normal, boring, beautiful life. That world was gone. I could feel it in my bones. Whatever this was, whatever had started in Pittsburgh and spread across the country in the span of a week, it had ended the world. And I was sitting in my apartment in my boxes with 6 granola bars and 2 cans of soup. And my sister was trapped in her house with her family. And my elderly neighbor was eating her husband in the backyard. And I had absolutely no idea what to do next. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is an emergency alert from the Cedar Falls Police Department. Shelter in place. Do not attempt to travel. Do not open doors to anyone. Military assistance is en route. This is not a drill. I read it 3 times. Military assistance is en route. How bad did things have to be for the military to get involved? I got up and went to the bedroom window, the one that faced a parking lot. Carefully, I pulled back the curtain and looked out. The parking lot was empty except for the cars. No people, no movement. It looked like a normal Tuesday morning, if you ignored the smoke rising from somewhere to the east and the constant soundtrack of sirens and screaming. My car was down there, a 2015 Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door from where I had backed into a shopping cart last year. It had half a tank of gas, maybe less. If I needed to run, if I needed to get to Rachel, I'd have to go down there and get to my car. 2 flights of stairs, across the parking lot. Maybe 30 seconds if I ran. 30 seconds of being exposed. I let the curtain fall closed. Not yet. Not unless I had to. I went back to the kitchen and tried to think practically. Food, water, defense. Defense. I didn't own a gun. I'd never seen the point. Cedar Falls was a safe town. A boring town. The kind of place where the most exciting thing that happened was when someone's dog got loose in the local Facebook group melted down about leash laws. But I did have kitchen knives. I had a baseball bat in the closet. Aluminum. From a company's softball league I'd played in for exactly 1 season before realizing I hated softball. I had a hammer in the junk drawer. I gathered everything that could be a weapon and laid it out on the coffee table. 2 kitchen knives, the bat, the hammer, a heavy flashlight. It looked pathetic. It looked like the last desperate measure of someone who had no idea what they were doing. Because I didn't. I taught history. I knew about the past, about wars and plagues and the fall of civilizations. But knowing about the fall of Rome didn't mean I knew how to survive the fall of Cedar Falls, Ohio. My phone rang again. Dad. Still safe? He asked. Yeah, locked in. The news is... Dad, this is everywhere, isn't it? It's bad, son. Real bad. Your mother and I are packing up. We're going to drive north. Try to get somewhere more remote. I think cities are going to be death traps. What about me? What should I do? Another pause. I could hear him breathing. Could picture him standing in his kitchen in Florida, trying to figure out how the hell to tell his son he didn't have any good news. You gotta make your own call, Alex. If you can stay safe where you are, that might be for the smart play. Wait for things to stabilize. But if it gets bad, if you need to move, head north, away from population centers. Find somewhere you can defend, somewhere with fresh water. Rachel and her family are trapped. Someone bit Tom. I heard my dad's sharp intake of breath. How bad? I don't know. She said his shoulder. But Dad, if what they're saying is true, if it spreads through bites, then you can't go there. His voice was firm. Alex, listen to me. You can't help them if you get yourself killed. If Tom's been bitten, if he's infected, there's nothing you can do. She's my sister. I know. God, I know. But you've got to survive this. Both of you do. Tell her to isolate Tom. Keep him away from the kids. See how it develops. Maybe he'll be okay. Maybe... He stopped. Neither of us believed maybe. I'll call her, I said. Call us every hour if you can. Let us know you're okay. You too. We will. I love you, son. I love you too, Dad. I hung up and immediately called Rachel back. She answered the first ring. Alex! How's Tom? He's in the bedroom. I locked him in. The kids are asking for him, but I can't. I can't let them see him like this. Like what? What happened to him? Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's getting worse. The bite won't stop bleeding, and he's so pale, and he keeps saying he's cold, but he's burning up. And his eyes, Alex. His eyes look wrong. Mrs. Henderson's eyes. Wrong, empty. Keep him isolated, I said. Don't go near him. Don't let the kids near him. He's my husband. I know, but Rachel, you have to think about Maddie and Jake. If what bit him was infected, if Tom was infected, don't say that. Don't you dare say that. I'm sorry. So sorry. But you have to protect the kids. That's the priority now. She was crying. I could hear it through the phone. Quiet sobs that she was trying to muffle. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. You can. You have to. For Maddie and Jake. What if he turns into one of those things? I didn't have an answer for that. What do you tell someone when their husband, father of their children, might become a monster? We'll figure it out, I said, knowing it was hollow. Just stay strong. Stay safe. I'll call you in an hour. Okay. Her voice was small. Okay. After we hung up, I sat there holding my phone, staring at my pathetic collection of weapons on the coffee table, and I felt the full weight of how fucked we all were settle onto my shoulders. It was 10:23 a.m. The zombie apocalypse was less than 4 hours old, and I was already running out of hope. And outside, the screaming continued. The screaming stopped around noon. That's when I knew things had gotten worse. For the last few hours, I've been able to track what was happening outside by the sounds. Sirens, shouts, the occasional gunshot, and always, the screaming. It was a constant background noise, like living near a highway. You'd almost get used to it, and then you'd remember what it meant to your stomach would drop all over again. But now it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Not the kind of quiet where birds chirp and you can hear the wind in the trees. This was the quiet of a held breath. The quiet of something waiting. I was sitting on my couch, baseball bat across my lap, when my phone rang. Rachel. He's getting worse. No hello, no preamble. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the kind of tone people use when they've cried themselves out and there's nothing left. Tell me. He was shaking about an hour ago, like seizures, but not quite. And he stopped responding when I talked to him through the door. I can hear him in there, moving around, but he won't answer me. And Alex, her voice cracked, just a little. He's scratching at the door. Not trying to get to us, just scratching, like he forgot how to use doors. I closed my eyes. How are Maddie and Jake? Scared. Jake thinks his dad is sick and we will get better soon. He keeps asking if we can take him to the hospital. Maddie knows something is really wrong. She's 9, Alex. 9 years old, and she's sitting in her room with a backpack full of her stuffed animals because she heard me talking about maybe needing to leave, and she's trying to be ready. Rachel took a shaky breath. What kind of world is this where my 9-year-old daughter is packing a go bag? The world we're in now, I said quietly. I'm sorry, Rach. I'm so fucking sorry. I need you to promise me something. Anything. If something happens to me, if Tom gets out, or if those things get in here, and if I... She stopped. Started again. You'll take care of them. Maddie and Jake. You'll find a way to get to them, and you'll take care of them. Rachel. Promise me, Alex. Promise me right now. I looked around my apartment, at my meager supplies, my improvised weapons, my complete and total lack of preparedness for the end of the world. I was the worst possible person to make this promise to. I was a history teacher who'd never been in a fight in his life, who'd called a handyman to kill a spider last month because it was too big and I was too squeamish. I promise, I said. We sat in silence for a moment, just breathing into our phones. 2 siblings trying to anchor each other in a reality that had come undone. I have to go, Rachel said finally. I need to check the windows again. Call me if anything happens. You too. She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time since this morning, I let myself really think about what was happening. Not just react, not just survive minute to minute, but actually process it. The world had ended. Maybe not everywhere, maybe not all at once, but it was ending. And the life I'd built, my job, my routine, my comfortable existence, was gone. The students I was supposed to be teaching right now were either dead, dying, or trying not to become what Mrs. Henderson had become. The coffee shop where I go to my morning caffeine fix was probably a charnel house. The grocery store where I should have gone shopping this weekend was likely overrun. Everything familiar was burning, and I was sitting here with a baseball bat and 2 cans of soup, pretending I had a plan. My phone buzzed. Not a call this time, but a news alert. Martial law declared nationwide. All citizens ordered to shelter in place. Violators will be subject to immediate detention. Detention by whom? The police who weren't answering 911? The military that was supposedly en route? I opened my news app and started scrolling. The headlines were apocalyptic. CDC estimates 30% infection rate in major cities. President declares state of emergency. Urges calm. Hospitals overrun as infected numbers surge. Military establishes quarantine zones. Authorization to use lethal force granted. I clicked on the last one. The article was brief, probably written in a hurry by a reporter who had more pressing concerns than good prose. The Department of Defense announced this morning that military personnel have been authorized to use lethal force to contain the spread of what officials are now calling acute necrotizing encephalopathy epidemic. Quarantine zones have been established around major population centers. Citizens attempting to leave these zones will be turned back. Those displaying symptoms of infection will be detained indefinitely. The White House released a statement urging citizens to remain calm and comply with all military directives. They'd given it an official name, as if naming it would make it less terrifying, would make it something we could understand and control. Mrs. Henderson tearing into Gerald's arm didn't give a shit what they called it. I kept scrolling. More headlines, each one worse than the last. Then a video caught my eye. The thumbnail showed a shaky phone camera pointed at a street corner. The headline read, Florida man films full transformation. Graphic content warning. I shouldn't have watched it. I knew I shouldn't watch it. I watched it. The video started mid-scene. Someone, a man in his 30s, maybe, was being held down by 2 police officers on a street corner. He was thrashing, screaming incoherently. The cops were yelling at him to calm down, to stop resisting. Then the man bit one of the officers. Not like a human bite. Not like someone who was angry or scared. He latched onto the officer's forearm like a pit bull and didn't let go. The officer screamed and tried to pull away, but the man held on, tearing away a chunk of flesh and muscle. The second officer pulled his gun. 3 shots, center mass. The man barely reacted. He turned toward the second officer, still chewing, blood pouring down his chin, and lunged. 4 more shots. The man went down. For a few seconds, everything was chaos. The first officer was screaming, clutching his mangled arm. The second officer was backing away, guns still pointed at the downed man. People in the background of the video were running and shouting. Then the downed man got up. Just stood up like someone who'd tripped and was brushed themselves off. 7 bullet holes in his chest and abdomen, blood soaking through his shirt, and he stood up and started walking toward the injured officer. The second officer shot him again, and again, and again. I counted 6 more shots before the man finally went down and stayed down. The video ended. I sat there, phone in my shaking hand, feeling my understanding of reality crack a little more. They didn't feel pain. They didn't respond to being shot. They just kept coming. How the hell were we supposed to survive things that didn't stop? A sound from outside pulled me from my spiral. Not a scream this time. Something closer. Something in my building. Footsteps in the hallway. I froze, listening. The footsteps were slow, uneven, shuffling. They passed my door, continued down the hall, and stopped at the apartment next to mine. The apartment where Danny lived. A college kid, 21, who played his music too loud and always apologized when I knocked on his door to complain. I heard scratching. The same kind of scratching Rachel had described. Someone, something, was scratching at Danny's door. Then pounding. Heavy, rhythmic pounding. Like someone had forgotten how to knock and was just smashing their fist against the wood. I crept to my door, baseball bat in hand, and looked through the peephole. The hallway was dim. The overhead lights were motion activated and they'd shut off. But I could make out a figure standing at Danny's door. It was a woman, or it had been. She was wearing hospital scrubs that were soaked with blood. Her hair hung in matted clumps around her face, and she was pounding on Danny's door with both fists, over and over, with mechanical persistence. As I watched, she stopped pounding and turned to look down the hallway, directly at my door. I stepped back from the peephole, heart hammering. Could she see me? Could she somehow sense me on the other side of the door? The scratching started. On my door this time. Light at first, almost tentative. Then harder. Then pounding. Boom, boom, boom! Jesus Christ, I whispered, backing further into my apartment. The door was solid wood. The lock was good. It would hold. It had to hold. Boom, boom, boom! The sound echoed through my apartment, through my skull. I gripped the baseball bat so hard my knuckles went white. Then, from inside Danny's apartment, I heard a voice. Hello? Who's there? No, I thought. No, no, no. Don't open the door. Danny! I shouted through my door. Danny, don't open your door! Don't! I heard his door unlock. Heard it open. Heard Danny scream. The pounding on my door stopped. I ran back to the peephole and looked out. The woman in the scrubs had turned away from my door and was now pushing her way into Danny's apartment. I could see Danny trying to close the door. Could see him losing that fight as she forced her way inside. Then they were both out of sight, and I could only listen. Danny screamed. Furniture crashed. Everything heavy hit the floor. The screaming turned to wet and gargled, and then stopped. I stood at my peephole, watching Danny's open doorway, waiting. The woman in the scrubs emerged after maybe 30 seconds. Her face was a mask of blood. She'd been feeding. And behind her, stumbling out into the hallway with uncertain steps, was Danny. Or what used to be Danny. His throat was torn open. I could see it even in the dim light. A gaping wound that should have killed him. That would have killed him if the rules still applied. But he was walking, stumbling down the hallway with that same shuffling gait I'd seen Mr. Adams use in the Henderson's yard. They both shambled down the hallway toward the stairs. The motion sensor lights flickered on, illuminating them fully for a moment before they disappeared from view. I stepped away from the door and sat down hard on my couch. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. Danny was 21 years old. He was studying engineering. He told me last week that he was going home for Thanksgiving, that his mom was making his favorite meal. Now he was one of them. Dead but walking. Gone but still here. And it had happened in less than a minute. I needed to call Rachel. I needed to warn her. If Tom turned, if he got out of that bedroom, she'd have even less time than Danny did. I pulled out my phone, but before I could dial, it rang. Dad. You okay? He asked immediately. We heard gunshots nearby. Are you safe? I'm okay. One of them got into my building. Attacked my neighbor. Dad, it happened so fast. They bite you and you turn in minutes. We know. We're seeing it on the news, Alex. Listen to me. Your mother and I are leaving now. We've got the car packed. We're heading north. Going to try to make it to your Uncle Jerry's cabin in Tennessee. It's remote. If you can get out, if you can move, I want you to meet us there. I can't. Rachel and the kids. I know. But if the situation changes, if you need to run, that's where we'll be. You remember how to get there? I did. I'd gone there when I was a kid, before Uncle Jerry died and left it sitting empty. It was in the mountains, miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, a well for water, a wood stove for heat. It would be perfect, if I could get there. I remember, I said. Good. We're going to try and call every few hours. But if the cell towers go down, they won't go down. They can't. My dad didn't say anything for a moment. Then, we love you. Both of you. You and Rachel. Tell her that for me. I will. Be smart, be careful. And Alex, don't hesitate. If you have to do something to survive, you do it. Don't think, don't second guess. Just survive. Okay. We'll see you soon. I promise. He hung up before I could tell him not to make promises he couldn't keep. I immediately called Rachel. Tom's getting worse, she said before I could speak. He's not scratching anymore. He's throwing himself at the door. The frame is starting to crack. You need to leave right now. Get the kids and get out of the house. And go where? They're everywhere outside. I can see them from the window. There must be a dozen on our street alone. Then barricade the bedroom door. Use furniture, anything heavy. Don't let him out. Alex, he's my husband. I can't just... He's not your husband anymore. I was shouting now, and I forced myself to lower my voice. Rachel, I just watched my neighbor turn. It took less than a minute from when he was bitten to when he was one of them. Tom got bit hours ago. Whatever's happening to him, it's already happened. The man you married is gone. What's in that bedroom is something else. Something dangerous. Silence at the other end of the line. Then quietly, I know. The resignation in her voice broke something in me. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. Me too. I need to go. I need to set up the barricade while I still can. Be careful. I love you. I love you too. She hung up, and I was alone again with my thoughts and my fear and the distant sounds of the world ending. I spent the next hour doing what I should have done earlier, actually preparing. I dragged my mattress off my bed and propped it against the front door, creating a second barrier. I filled every container I had with water, pots, bowls, empty soda bottles. I counted my food again, calculated how long it would last if I rationed carefully. Maybe a week, 2 if I really stretched it. Not enough. Not nearly enough. But what choice did I have? Going outside meant facing them, meant risking becoming one of them. I was checking the locks in the window for the 3rd time when I heard the explosion. It came from the east, loud enough to shake the windows. I ran to the bedroom. It looked out. A column of black smoke was rising from downtown, thick and oily. I watched. Another explosion bloomed at its base, orange and red against the gray sky. The gas station on 4th Street, I thought. Had to be. Nothing else that direction would explode like that. The smoke kept rising, and I realized I could see other fires too, smaller ones, scattered across the city. Cedar Falls was burning. My phone rang. Not Dad this time, or Rachel. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Hello? Alex Mercer? The voice was male, young, scared. Yeah, who is this? It's Brandon. Brandon Cole. I'm in your second period history class. Brandon, smart kid, quiet, sat in the back and always did his homework on time. Brandon, are you okay? Where are you? I'm at home with my mom and little sister. My dad, he left this morning to go to work and he didn't come back. We tried calling him, but... His voice broke. Mr. Mercer, what's happening? Everything says it's zombies, but that's crazy, right? It's not real. I looked out the window at the burning city. Thought about Mrs. Henderson and Danny and Tom and everyone who died today. Everyone who'd gotten up this morning expecting a normal Tuesday and instead got the apocalypse. Brandon, listen to me. I need you to stay inside. Keep your doors locked. Don't let anyone in. Make sure you have food and water. But my dad, your dad would want you to stay safe. That's the priority now. Keep your mom and sister safe. Are you safe, Mr. Mercer? Was I? I was locked in my apartment with a week's worth of food and surrounded by the walking dead. My sister was trapped in her house with her dying husband and two terrified children. My parents were fleeing to the mountains. My neighbor had been eaten. The city was on fire. I'm managing, I said. You're going to manage too. You're a smart kid, Brandon. You can do this. Okay. He didn't sound convinced. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mercer. Stay safe. I hung up and stared at the phone. How many of my students were out there right now, scared and alone? How many had already turned? How many were dead? I'd spent years teaching them about history, about how civilizations rose and fell, and about how the world had ended before and been rebuilt. I'd made it all sound so academic, so distant, just dates and facts and essay questions. Now they were living it. We all were. The afternoon crawled by. I tried to ration my phone battery, checking it only every 30 minutes. The news was getting worse, assuming the news was even accurate anymore. Conflicting reports about safe zones, about evacuation routes, about where the military was and wasn't. Twitter was a hellscape of videos and panic. People filmed their last moments, people saying goodbye to loved ones, people asking for help that wasn't coming. At 4:17 p.m., my phone rang. Rachel. I knew before I answered. I could hear it in the ringtone. Could feel it in my gut. Alex. Her voice was steady. Too steady. The kind of steady that comes from shock. He broke through. My blood went cold. Are you okay? Are the kids okay? We're in Maddie's room. I pushed her dresser in front of the door. He's in the hallway. I can hear him out there. Do you have a weapon? Anything? A softball bat. From when Maddie played last summer. Okay, good. That's something. Alex, I need you to listen to me. If I don't make it, don't say that. If I don't make it, she continued, her voice firm now. The spare key to the house is under the flower pot by the front door, the blue one. Maddie and Jake will be in here, in Maddie's room. You get them out. You get them somewhere safe. Rachel, promise me. One more time, promise me you'll take care of them. I promise. I heard a crash on the other end of the line, wood splintering. He's coming through the door, Rachel said, and her voice was different now, scared but determined. I have to go. I love you, Alex. Tell Mom and Dad I love them too. Rachel, wait. The line went dead. I tried calling back. It rang and went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. No. I said out loud. No. I grabbed my keys, grabbed the baseball bat. I was moving toward the door before I even made a conscious decision. I had to get to her. Had to help. My hand was on the doorknob when I heard them. Footsteps in the hallway. Lots of them. That shuffling, dragging gait that meant they weren't human anymore. I looked through the peephole, and my blood froze. The hallway was full of them. 5 or 6, maybe more, further down where I couldn't see. They were packed shoulder to shoulder, some wearing pajamas, some were work clothes, one still in a police uniform. All of them that same empty look in their eyes, that same mindless hunger. And they were all heading toward the stairs. I couldn't leave. Not now. Not through that. I backed away from my door, phone clutched in my hand, and tried Rachel's number again. Voicemail. I sank to the floor, back against the wall, and felt the last of my hope drain away. Rachel was gone. Or if she wasn't gone yet, she would be soon, and I couldn't help her. Couldn't save her. Couldn't even try. I'd promised her I'd take care of Maddie and Jake. I was trapped in here, and they were trapped there, and I didn't know if any of us would make it through the night. The sun was setting now. I could see it through the bedroom window, painting the smoke-filled sky orange and red. The first day of the end of the world was almost over, and I was still alive, for whatever that was worth. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel's face, heard her voice saying, "I have to go," heard the sound of wood splintering. I tried her number 43 times throughout the night. I counted. 43 calls, and every single one went to voicemail. By the time the sun started to rise, a weak, sickly light filtered through the smoke that still hung over Cedar Falls. I'd accepted that my sister was either dead or worse than dead, and her kids, Maddie and Jake, 9 and 6 years old, were alone in the house with whatever their father had become. I'd made Rachel a promise. 2 promises, actually. And I was going to keep them, or die trying. Which, given the state of the world, probably meant both. I spent the early morning hours planning. Real planning this time, not the panicked scrambling of yesterday. I spread out a map of Cedar Falls on my kitchen table, an actual paper map, because I'd stopped trusting my phone after the battery hit 20% around 3 a.m., and I'd been rationing it ever since. Rachel's house was 2.3 miles away, normally a 5-minute drive. In the current situation, I had no idea. But it didn't matter. I was going. The route was the problem. I could take Main Street, 4 lanes direct, but it ran right through the commercial district where the news yesterday had showed massive crowds of those things. Or I could go residential, winding through neighborhoods, longer but potentially less populated. Potentially being the key word. I chose residential. Better to deal with a few scattered threats than walk into a horde. My supplies were laid out on the coffee table. The aluminum baseball bat, my primary weapon, a kitchen knife in my belt, the flashlight, a backpack with 2 bottles of water and the granola bars, my phone and charger, and my car keys, though I wasn't sure the car would do me any good. The parking lot had been quiet when I checked it an hour ago, but that didn't mean the streets would be clear. I was as ready as I was going to get. Which is to say, not ready at all. I stood at my front door, hand on the knob, and tried to convince myself I could do this. I was a high school history teacher. The most physically demanding thing I'd done in the last year was carrying a box of textbooks up a flight of stairs. I'd never been in a fight, never hurt anyone. I never had to. But I'd made a promise. I moved the mattress barricade aside and checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. The bodies from yesterday, Danny, the woman in scrubs, were gone. Either they'd wandered off or something else had happened to them. I didn't want to think too hard about what that something else might be. I unlocked the door. The deadbolt made a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet building. I waited, listening for any response, any shuffling footsteps or scratching sounds. Nothing. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The smell hit me immediately. Blood and shit and something else. Something sweet and rotten that made my stomach heave. The motion sensor lights flicked on, revealing dark stains in the carpet, smears on the walls. Danny's door was still open, and I could see inside. Overturned furniture, more blood, but no bodies. I forced myself to move forward, bat raised, every sense on high alert. The hallway felt longer than it had any right to be. Each step took an eternity. Each shadow could be hiding something. I made it to the stairs without incident. The stairwell was concrete and metal, utilitarian and echoey. Every sound I made bounced back at me, amplified. I tried to step quietly, but my shoes on the metal stairs might as well have been gunshots. First floor landing, still clear. I crept to the door that led to the lobby and looked through a small window. The lobby was trashed. The front desk where Mrs. Patterson usually sat doing crossword puzzles and gossiping with residents was overturned. The glass door to the street was shattered, leaving a gaping mouth opening onto the parking lot. And standing in the middle of the lobby, swaying slightly like it was listening to music no one else could hear, was Mrs. Patterson herself. Or what used to be Mrs. Patterson. She'd been in her 70s, a sweet woman who'd given me cookies on my birthday and always asked about my family. Now her floral dress was soaked with blood. Not her own, I didn't think. And her gray hair was matted with gore. She was facing away from me, staring at nothing. And as I watched, she took a shambling step toward the broken door, then stopped, then turned slowly in a circle like she'd forgotten where she was going. I needed to get past her. The parking lot was right there, maybe 30 feet away. My car was another 20 feet beyond that. 50 feet between me and transportation, between me and Rachel's kids, and Mrs. Patterson standing in the way. I could wait for her to wander aside. How long would that take? And what if more of them showed up while I was waiting? Or I could try to sneak past her, stay quiet, stay low, and hope she didn't notice me. Or I could. My hand tightened on the baseball bat. No, I couldn't. She was Mrs. Patterson. She'd given me cookies. But she's not Mrs. Patterson anymore. A voice in my head reminded me. Mrs. Patterson is gone. That's just a thing wearing her body. I stood there, frozen with indecision, until Mrs. Patterson made the choice for me. She turned in a slow circle until she was facing the stairwell door, facing me. For a moment, we just looked at each other through the window. Her eyes were milky, unfocused, and empty. Then she opened her mouth and made a sound that I felt in my bones. Not a scream, not a moan. Something between the two. A wet, rattling call that echoed through the lobby. And she started moving toward me. I ran. Back up the stairs, taking them two at a time. Heart hammering in my chest. Behind me, I heard the stairwell door crash open. Heard Mrs. Patterson's shuffling footsteps on the concrete. She was slow. They were all slow, I'd noticed. But they were persistent. I burst through the second floor door and sprinted down the hallway to my apartment. Got inside, slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, stood there panting, listening. The shuffling footsteps continued up the stairs, past the second floor, heading to the third. I waited until the sound faded, then slumped against the door. Fuck, I said out loud. Fuck. The front entrance was compromised. Mrs. Patterson might come back down, and even if she didn't, that sound she made, that call, might have attracted others. I needed a new plan. I went to the bedroom window and looked down at the parking lot. My car was still there. And between my building and the parking lot was a drop about 20 feet to a grass area that residents used for grilling in the summertime. 20 feet, onto grass. Survivable, probably, if I hung from the window first to reduce the drop. Or catastrophically stupid if I broke my ankle and couldn't run. I was still weighing the options when I heard my phone buzz. I lunged for it, hoping desperately it was Rachel. It was a text from my dad. Made it to Jerry's cabin. No cell service but found old ham radio. Monitoring channel 14.5 megahertz. If you can find a radio, we can talk. Stay safe. Love you. At least someone had made it somewhere safe. I texted back. Still in apartment. Planning to get to Rachel's house today. She's not responding. Going to check on the kids. The message showed as delivered, but not read. Cell service was getting spotty, and he said himself that they had no service. I pocketed the phone and went back to the window. The parking lot was still clear. This might be my only chance. I opened the window, knocked out the screen, and looked down. 20 feet. Maybe a little less. The grass looked soft enough. Right. Maybe those things outside would decide to become vegetarian and we could all live happily ever after. I threw my backpack out first, watched it land with a soft thump on the grass. Then I sat on the windowsill, legs hanging out, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. I gripped the window frame and lowered myself down until I was hanging by my hands. The ground was closer now, maybe 10 feet. Still a long drop, but better. I let go. For a second, I was weightless. Then I hit the grass and my legs buckled and I rolled, trying to distribute the impact like I'd seen people in the movies. It worked, sort of. I didn't break anything, but my right ankle screamed in protest and my shoulder felt like I'd been hit with a hammer. I lay there for a moment, staring up at the gray sky and waiting to see if anything had heard me. Silence. I got to my feet, tested my ankle, painful but functional, and grabbed my backpack. The parking lot was 15 feet away. I crossed it at a limping run, keys in hand. My Civic was right where I'd left it, covered in a fine layer of ash from the fires. I unlocked it, threw myself in the driver's seat, and locked the door behind me. For a moment, I just sat there, breathing hard, feeling the relative safety of the car around me. Then I put the key in the ignition. The engine turned over once, twice. "Come on," I whispered. It caught on the third try, coming to life. The gas gauge showed just over a quarter tank. Enough to get to Rachel's. Enough to get back if I needed to. Maybe. I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the street, and got my first real look at Cedar Falls in daylight. It looked like a war zone. Cars were abandoned in the middle of the road, doors hanging open. Some of them crashed into trees or other things. Bodies lay on the sidewalks. Actual bodies, not moving, not getting up. Dark stains marked the pavement. Every few houses had broken windows or kicked-in doors. Smoke rose from a dozen different fires across the city. And everywhere, wandering in aimless patterns, were the infected. I saw them in yards, on porches, stumbling down the middle of the street. Some were alone. Some were in groups of 2 or 3. All of them had that same shuffling gait, that same empty look. I drove slowly, weaving around the abandoned cars, trying not to draw attention. Most of them didn't react to the car at all. They turned their heads when I passed, tracking the movement, but they didn't chase. Didn't seem interested unless I stopped. Good to know. I made it 3 blocks before I encountered my first real obstacle. The intersection of Maple and 5th was completely blocked. A delivery truck had jackknifed across both lanes, and behind it was a pileup of at least 6 cars. And in and around the wreckage was maybe 20 of those things, milling around like shoppers in a grocery store. I stopped the car 50 feet away and considered my options. I could try to go around, through the church parking lot, but that would take me off my route. Or I could backtrack and find another street. While I was deciding, one of them noticed the car. It turned to face me, head cocked at an odd angle. Then it started walking toward me. Then another turned, and another. Shit! I put the car in reverse and started backing up, slowly at first, then faster as more of them took notice and began shambling in my direction. By the time I'd backed to the previous intersection, there were a dozen of them following me. Not running. They didn't seem capable of running, but walking with that terrible persistence, arms reaching out like they could grab me through the windshield. I spun the car around and took a side street, checking my rearview mirror. They were still coming, still following, but I was pulling away easily. The side street led me into a residential area I didn't recognize. Nice houses, manicured lawns, SUVs and driveways. The kind of neighborhood where people put up Christmas decorations in November and complained about property values. Now it was a graveyard. I passed a house where the front door was wide open and something, was sitting on the porch steps. It didn't move as I drove by, just sat there with its head down like it was resting. A few houses down, a man in a bathrobe was standing in his driveway, swaying. His bathrobe was covered in blood, and one of his arms hung at a wrong angle. On the next block, I saw what looked like a family in their front yard. A mother, father, and 2 children. All of them just standing there in a tight group, not moving, not doing anything. As I passed, all 4 heads turned in unison to watch the car go by. It was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen, and that was saying something given the last 24 hours. I kept driving, taking turns randomly, trying to work my way back toward Rachel's neighborhood. The street names were familiar, but the streets themselves were alien, transformed by violence and death into something I didn't recognize. I checked my phone. Still no signal. The battery was down to 15%. Come on, Rach. Just one message. Let me know you're okay. But the phone stayed silent. I turned onto Birch Street and had to slam on the brakes. There was a roadblock ahead. Not one by the military or police, but an improvised barricade of furniture and cars. And standing in front of it, holding a shotgun, was a man in his 50s with a baseball cap and a very unfriendly expression. I stopped the car and raised my hands, trying to look non-threatening. The man approached cautiously, shotgun pointed at my windshield. "You bit?" he called out. I shook my head. "No, I'm just trying to get to my sister's house. She's not answering her phone and I'm worried." "Where?" "Willow Creek subdivision, about a mile from here." The man studied me for a long moment, then lowered the shotgun slightly. "Willow Creek's bad. Real bad. Some folks tried to get out of their way yesterday and didn't come back. You sure you want to go there?" "I'm sure." He nodded slowly. "Your funeral. You got any supplies? Food? Water? Medicine?" "Just what I'm carrying." "We got a group holed up in the elementary school 2 blocks that way." He jerked his thumb over his shoulder. "About 30 of us. We're letting people in if they're not infected, and they pull their weight. You want to join up instead of running off to a death trap? You're welcome to." It was tempting. Safety in numbers. A group of survivors working together. Wasn't that how it was supposed to work? But I'd made a promise. "Thanks," I said, "but I have to check on my sister's kids." "Kids still alive over there?" "I hope so." The man's expression softened just a little. "Yeah, I hope so too. Good luck." He stepped aside and waved to someone I couldn't see. Part of the barricade, a minivan rolled forward, creating a gap just wide enough for my car to squeeze through. I drove through, and in my rearview mirror I watched them close the gap behind me. 30 people, an elementary school, a barricade. Maybe they'd make it. Maybe they'd build something that lasted. But I couldn't think about that now. I took the next 3 turns, and suddenly I was in familiar territory. I knew this street. I'd been here 100 times. Rachel's house was just around the corner. My heart started pounding harder. I turned onto Willow Creek Drive and immediately saw why the man had called it real bad. The street looked like a tornado had hit it. Cars were overturned. Trees were down. Every house had broken windows or damaged doors. And there were bodies everywhere. Actual bodies, not the walking kind. Some in the street, some on lawns, some half in and half out of houses. And moving among them, shambling from house to house like they were trick-or-treating in hell, were dozens of those things. I counted at least 40 in the 2 blocks I could see. Rachel's house was in the middle of it all. I stopped the car 2 houses away and killed the engine. Driving any closer would just draw attention. I could see Rachel's house from here. A modest 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a garden Rachel had been proud of. The front door was closed. The windows looked intact. The flower pot, the blue one, was by the front door, just like Rachel had said. The spare key would be under it. If I could get there. 40 of them, maybe more, between me and the house. This is insane. This is suicide. But Maddie and Jake were in there, 9 and 6 years old, alone and terrified. If they were still alive. I couldn't let myself think they might not be. Couldn't let myself consider the possibility that I'd come all this way for nothing. I grabbed the baseball bat and got out of the car as quietly as I could. The nearest of those things was maybe 30 feet away, standing in the middle of the street with its back to me. It was wearing a mail carrier's uniform. Beyond it, others wandered in random patterns, bumping into each other, into cars, into nothing. None of them had noticed me yet. I started walking, keeping low, moving from car to car using them as cover. The mail carrier didn't turn around. I passed within 10 feet of it, and it just kept staring at whatever it was staring at. Maybe this would work. Maybe I could actually pull this off. I made it to the first house, pressed myself against the wall, and looked around the corner. Rachel's house was one lot away. The yard was clear. The path to the front door was maybe 40 feet. 40 feet of open ground. I could run it. If I was fast, if I was lucky, I could make it before they reacted. I was tensing to sprint when I heard it. Car alarm. Loud and sudden and coming from back where I parked. Every head on the street corner turned toward the sound, including mine. My Civic's alarm was blaring, lights flashing, and I realized what must have happened. One of those things had bumped into it, triggered the motion sensor, and now every single one of them was moving toward the sound, toward my car, toward the path I needed to retreat down. "No, no, no," I whispered. But some of them were also turning toward me, drawn by my movement, my voice. I had maybe 5 seconds before they reached me. I ran. Straight across Rachel's yard. No cover, no stealth. Just pure panic-fueled speed. My ankles screamed, but I didn't slow down. Behind me, I could hear them. That wet, rattling call Mrs. Patterson had made, multiplied by 40 voices. I hit the front steps, grabbed the blue flower pot, dipped it over. The key was there, taped to the bottom. I snatched it up, jammed it into the lock. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The lock turned. I threw the door open, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut behind me. Something hit the door from outside a second later. Then another impact. Then more. A dozen bodies throwing themselves against the door with mindless persistence. I threw the deadbolt and stepped back, chest heaving, and finally allowed myself to look around. Rachel's house was dark. The curtains were drawn. The furniture in the living room was overturned, and there were dark stairs on the carpet that I tried not to look at too closely. "Maddie?" I called out. "Jake? It's Uncle Alex. Are you here?" Silence. Then from upstairs, a small voice. "Uncle Alex?" Relief flooded through me, so intensely I almost collapsed. "Maddie! I'm here, sweetheart! I'm coming up!" I took the stairs 2 at a time, bat raised just in case. The upstairs hallway was a mess. Furniture piled against one of the bedroom doors, creating a barricade. The door itself was splintered, with jagged holes where something had tried to break through. "Maddie, which room are you in?" "Here! We're in here!" The voice was coming from the door at the end of the hall. I picked my way through the debris and tried the knob. Locked. "Maddie, it's me. Can you unlock the door?" I heard movement inside. Whispered voices. Then the lock clicked and the door opened a crack. Maddie's face appeared in the gap. She was pale, her eyes red from crying, her dark hair tangled, but she was alive. "Uncle Alex?" "Yeah, kiddo, it's me." She threw the door open and hugged me so hard I almost dropped the bat. A moment later, Jake was there too, wrapping his small arms around my legs. I knelt down and hugged them both, and for the first time in 2 days, I felt something other than fear. I felt purpose. "Are you guys okay?" I asked, pulling back to look at them. "Are you hurt?" Maddie shook her head. Jake just stared at me with wide eyes. "Where's your mom?" Maddie's face crumpled. She told us to stay in here. She said she had to stop Daddy, and she'd be right back. She didn't..." She couldn't finish. Jake started crying. I pulled them both close again. "It's okay. It's going to be okay. I'm here now. I'm gonna get you somewhere safe." "Where's Mommy?" Jake asked, his voice muffled against the shirt. "I want Mommy." I didn't know what to tell him. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that his mother is dead? That his father is worse than dead? "Your mom had to go away," I said carefully. "But she made me promise to take care of you. Both of you. And I always keep my promises." It was a bullshit answer and Maddie knew it. I could see it in her eyes. But she didn't call me on it. She just nodded and wiped her eyes. "We need to leave," I said. "Right now. Do you guys have your backpacks? The ones you packed? Maddie pointed to 2 small backpacks on the bed. I grabbed them and handed them over. Put those on. We're going to go downstairs and get out of the back door. Stay close to me, okay? Don't make any noise. And if I tell you to run, you run, understand? They both nodded. I led them downstairs, bat in one hand, flashlight in the other. The pounding on the front door had intensified. There were more of them now, drawn by the car alarm and my entry into the house. We crept through the kitchen to the back door. I looked out the window and my heart sank. The backyard had them too. Not as many, maybe 5 or 6, but enough to be a problem. And the back fence was at least 100 feet away. Change of plan, I whispered. We're going out the window in the garage. Rachel's attached garage had a small window on the side that faced the neighbor's yard. If that yard was clear, we could climb through, cut across, and work our way back to... Back to what? My car was surrounded. The streets were full of them. Okay, one problem at a time. We went into the garage. Rachel's SUV was still there. Keys probably inside. But the garage door was blocked from outside. I can hear them scratching at it. The side window was small, but Maddie and Jake would fit. I might fit. I unlocked it and pushed open. Cool air flowed in. I looked out. The neighbor's yard was empty. Okay, I said. Maddie, you go first, then Jake. I'll be right behind you. Maddie climbed up on the workbench below the window, and I helped her through. She dropped down on the other side with a soft thump. Jake went next, and I heard Maddie helping him land safely. Then it was my turn. I'm not a small guy. The window is very small, but fear is a hell of a motivator. I got my arms and head through, then my shoulders, and that's when I got stuck. I was wedged in the window frame, half in the garage and half out, unable to move forward or back. And from inside the garage, I heard the door to the house splinter and break. They were inside. I was stuck in the window when I heard them crash through the door from the house into the garage. That sound, splintering wood, the wet shuffling of feet, that horrible rattling call, hit me like ice water. I thrashed, pushed my legs, pulling my arms, ignoring the window frame digging into my ribs. Uncle Alex! Maddie's voice, high and scared. Pull me! I gasped. Pull my arms! Small hands grabbed my wrists and pulled. I pushed with everything I had. Something in the window frame cracked. Or maybe it was one of my ribs. I couldn't tell. And suddenly, I was sliding through, falling, landing hard on the grass on the other side. Behind me, through the window, I could see them crowding into the garage. Gray hands reaching, dead eyes staring. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed Maddie and Jake's hands, and ran. We cut through the neighbor's yard, vaulted a low fence, and kept running. Behind us, I could hear them. Not following, not yet, but making those sounds, calling to each other, or maybe just calling to nothing. I didn't know, and I didn't care. We made it 3 houses down before I had to stop. Doubled over, trying to breathe through what I was pretty sure was at least one cracked rib. Maddie and Jake huddled against me, panting. Where are we going? Maddie asked. Good question. My car was compromised. Rachel's house was overrun, and we were in the middle of a neighborhood infested with those things, with 2 terrified kids and a baseball bat. I pulled my phone out. 10% battery. Still no signal. Think, Alex, think. The elementary school. The man with the shotgun had said they were taking in survivors. 2 blocks from the barricade, which was maybe half a mile from here. We're going to find other people, I said. Other survivors. There's a group at the elementary school. Lincoln Elementary? Maddie asked. That's my school. Yeah, that one. You know how to get there from here? She nodded. We can take the bike path. It goes behind the houses. Mom used to walk us that way sometimes. Smart kid. The bike path would give us cover, keep us off the main streets. Show me. She led us up to the end of the block where a narrow path cut between 2 houses. It was overgrown with bushes on both sides, the kind of place parents warned their kids not to go alone. Now it might save our lives. We moved in single file. Maddie in front, Jake in the middle, me bringing up the rear with the bat. The path was quiet. Every snapping twig made me jump. Every shadow could be hiding something. We'd gone maybe 200 yards when we heard voices ahead. Human voices. I put my hand on Maddie's shoulder, stopping her. The voices were getting closer. 2 people, maybe 3, talking in low, urgent tones. Said the school's full up. They're not taking anyone else. Bullshit. My kids are hungry. They have to. They don't have to do anything. The world's over, man. It's every person for themselves. The voices were almost on top of us. I pulled Maddie and Jake into the bushes, and we crouched there, hidden. 3 men emerged from around a bend in the path. They were carrying bags, grocery bags, duffel bags, stuff that looked like it had been looted. One of them had a gun tucked into his waistband. They looked tired, desperate, and mean. They walked right past our hiding spot without noticing us. I waited until our voices faded before letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The school's not taking anyone anymore, Maddie whispered. I'd heard, but what choice did we have? Let's go check it out anyway. Maybe they'll make an exception. We kept moving. The path eventually opened up into a park, a wide, open space with playground equipment and picnic tables. And beyond it, I could see Lincoln Elementary School, or what was left of it. The school was surrounded by a makeshift wall of cars, dumpsters, and a chain-link fence. I could see people moving on the roof, keeping watch. Smoke rose from somewhere inside the perimeter. They had fires going. It looked organized and defended. It looked like hope. We approached slowly, hands visible, not wanting to get shot by nervous survivors. As we got closer, someone on the roof spotted us and shouted down. A moment later, a section of the barricade opened and the man from earlier, the one with the shotgun and baseball cap, appeared. He recognized me. You made it, and you found kids. He looked at Maddie and Jake. You two okay? They nodded, pressing close to me. We need shelter, I said. Food, water, please. The man's face was sympathetic but firm. I wish I could help. I really do. But we're at capacity. We've got 60 people in there and not enough supplies for the ones who already have. Taking in more would just mean everyone starves slower. They're kids. I know, and I'm sorry. But the answer's no. Behind me, I could see other faces peering out from the barricade. Hard faces. Scared faces. Faces that had to already make the calculations about survival and came up with an answer that didn't include us. Is there anywhere else? I asked. Anywhere safe? The man thought for a moment. There's talk of a FEMA camp up north, near Columbus. Military's supposed to be running it. But that's 60 miles from here and the roads are a nightmare. You'd never make it on foot. What about cars? Good luck finding one with gas. Most people had the same idea yesterday. Every gas station within 20 miles got mobbed and drained dry. He paused. Look, I'll be straight with you. Your best bet is to find a house, barricade yourself in, and wait this out. Hope the government gets their shit together and fixes this. And if they don't? He just looked at me. We both knew the answer. There's a house on Oakmont Street, he said finally. 2-story, red door, corner lot. Owner was a prepper type. Died of a heart attack about a month before all this kicked off. His family lives out of state and the house is still sitting empty. If you can get in, there's probably supplies. Maybe enough for a last a little while. How do you know this? I was his mailman. Knew the guy pretty well. He was always talking about doomsday scenarios, stockpiling food and water. Thought he was crazy at the time. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Guess he was a sane one after all. Oakmont Street, red door. Yeah, good luck. The barricade closed, and just like that, we were on our own again. It took us about 2 hours to reach Oakmont Street. 2 hours of hiding, sneaking, doubling back when we heard those things. 2 hours of Maddie trying to be brave and Jake quietly crying. 2 hours of me wondering if every decision I was making was the wrong one. But we did make it. The house was exactly as the mailman had described. 2-story, red door, corner lot. The yard was overgrown. A month of neglect had let the grass get wild. The windows were intact. The door was locked. I checked the nearby houses. Empty. Either the residents had fled or they'd died and turned. We were alone. "Wait here," I told Maddie and Jake. "I'm going to find a way in." The back door was locked too, but there was a window that looked promising. I used the bat to break it, clearing away the glass, and climbed through into a kitchen that smelled like stale air and old food. The power was out, but there was enough light coming through the windows to see. The kitchen was clear, orderly. Mail was piled on the counter. Bills, catalogs, advertisements for a life that didn't exist anymore. I unlocked the back door and let Maddie and Jake in. "Okay," I said. "Let's see what we're working with." What we were working with was a survivalist's wet dream. The basement was full of supplies. Shelves of canned food, cases of bottled water, boxes of medical supplies, batteries, flashlights, a camping stove with propane tanks, blankets, even a water filtration system. The guy had prepared for the end of the world. He just hadn't been prepared for his own heart to give out before it arrived. There was a gun safe in the corner, locked. I tried a few combinations but gave up after the fourth failure. Didn't matter. We had food, water, and shelter, and that was enough. For now. We spent the rest of the day making the house secure. I boarded up the broken window, checked all the locks, moved furniture to reinforce the windows and doors. Maddie and Jake helped where they could, and I tried to keep them busy. Keep them from thinking too hard about everything they'd lost. When it got dark, I made them dinner from cans. Chef Boyardee ravioli, heated on the camping stove. It tasted like the best meal I'd ever had. We ate by candlelight in the living room. No TV, no phones. My phone had died hours ago, and I'd left the charger at my apartment. Just us and the silence and the darkness outside. "Uncle Alex?" Jake's voice was small. "Is Mommy coming back?" I looked at Maddie. She was looking down at her ravioli, not eating. "No, buddy," I said gently. "She's not." "Because of the monsters?" "Yeah, because of the monsters." "Are we going to turn into monsters?" "No, we're safe here. I'm going to keep you safe." "You promise?" I'd promised Rachel I'd take care of them. I'd promised myself I'd keep them alive. I promise. It was a lie. I knew it was a lie. But sometimes lies are the kindest thing you can offer. We slept in the living room that night, all three of us on a pile of blankets and couch cushions. I wanted us close. Wanted to be able to protect them if something happened. The house was quiet except for the occasional sound from outside. Distant screams, car alarms. Once what might have been gunfire. I lay awake long after the kids fell asleep, listening to them breathe, and thought about everything that had happened. 3 days. Just 3 days since I'd watched Mrs. Henderson eating her husband. 3 days since the world made sense. My phone was dead. My car was gone. My sister was dead. My parents were in the mountains. Everyone I knew was either dead or might as well be. But I had Maddie and Jake. I'd kept my promise to Rachel. That had to count for something. Day 3 started with screaming. I jerked awake, confused and disoriented. Sunlight was streaming through the gaps in the boards over the windows. Maddie and Jake were still asleep, curled together like puppies. The screaming was coming from outside, close. I crept to the front window and peered through a gap in the boards. There was a woman in the street, running. Behind her, a pack of those things, 10, maybe 12, chasing her with that relentless shambling gait. She was faster, but she was tiring. I could see it in the way she was stumbling, slowing down. She wasn't going to make it. I should stay inside. I should keep Maddie and Jake safe. That was the priority. But I watched that woman running, and I thought about Rachel. And before I could talk myself out of it, I was grabbing the bat and heading for the door. "Stay here," I whispered to the kids. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it unless I say the password." "What's the password?" Maddie asked. She was awake now, watching me with wide eyes. "Ravioli." I slipped outside and ran toward the woman. She saw me coming and her eyes went wide. "Help! Please!" "This way!" I waved her toward the house. She changed direction, sprinting toward me. The things behind her adjusted course, following. We both ran for the red door. Maddie had it open. Smart kid. And we tumbled inside. She slammed it shut and I threw the deadbolt. Something hit the door a second later. Then many more impacts. That horrible pounding I was getting too familiar with. The woman was on the floor, gasping for breath. She was maybe 30, wearing running clothes soaked with sweat and blood. Not her own, I hoped. "Thank you," she managed between breaths. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "Are you bit?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I've been running since yesterday. My husband, they got him. Barely got away." "I'm sorry." She laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Everyone's sorry. It doesn't change anything, does it?" The sound on the door was continuing. The pounding on the door continued. "They'll give up eventually," I said, with more confidence than I felt. "They always do." "Do they?" She looked at me with hollow eyes. "How do you know? How does anyone know how anything works anymore?" I didn't have an answer for that. Her name was Jennifer. She'd been a nurse at Cedar Falls General before everything went to shit. She'd seen it start, seen the first infected brought in, seen the hospital get overrun. "We didn't know what we were dealing with," she said. We were sitting in the living room, Maddie and Jake keeping their distance, watching her warily. "People came in with bites, with strange symptoms. We treated them like regular patients, put them in beds, gave them antibiotics, pain meds. And then they turned, right there in the hospital, started attacking other patients, doctors, nurses. It spread so fast." "How fast?" "Hours, maybe less. Anyone who got bitten was infected within an hour. And once they turned," she shook her head. "We tried to restrain them. It didn't work. They're strong, stronger than they should be, and they don't stop. You can shoot them, stab them. They just keep coming. The only thing that stops them is destroying the brain." "How do you know that?" "Because I watched the doctor empty a pistol into one, and it kept walking. Then someone hit it in the head with a fire extinguisher, and it went down and stayed down." "Destroy the brain. Good to know." We sat in silence for a while. Outside, the pounding had stopped. I risked a look through the gap in the boards. They were still there, a dozen of them, standing in the yard, in the street, just waiting, not leaving, not wandering off, waiting for us to come out. "They're learning," Jennifer said quietly. She'd come up behind me, was looking over my shoulder. "Or remembering, I don't know which, but they're not as mindless as if they were at the start. They're starting to think, in some basic way, starting to strategize. That can't be possible. Neither are walking corpses, but here we are." She had a point. We spent the day inside, rationing the prepper supplies, trying to figure out our next move. Jennifer thought we should try for the FEMA camp at Columbus. I wasn't sure we'd make it 60 miles on foot with 2 kids. "We don't have to go on foot," Jennifer said. "I saw a truck a few blocks from here. Keys were in it. We could..." I tried that yesterday. My car alarm went off and drew every one of those things at a 2-block radius. Then we disable the car alarm first. Or create a distraction. Something to drive them away while we get into the truck. It could work, maybe. But it was a risk. A huge risk. I looked at Maddie and Jake, sitting in the corner, playing some quiet game with Maddie's stuffed animals. They deserved a chance. They deserved to grow up in a world that wasn't this nightmare. The FEMA camp might give them that chance. Or it might be overrun, like everything else. "Let's scout it out tomorrow," I said finally. "See if the truck's still there. See if we can make it work." Jennifer nodded. "Tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of breaking glass. Not from a window, from the basement. I grabbed the bat and flashlight and crept toward the basement door. Behind me, I could hear Jennifer waking up, hear her whispering to Maddie and Jake to stay quiet. The basement door was open. I'd closed it before I went to sleep. I was sure I'd closed it. I shone the flashlight down the stairs. The basement window, the small one that let in light, was broken. And standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at me with empty eyes, was one of them. It was a teenager, maybe 16, still wearing a high school letterman jacket. Its face was gray, its mouth bloody, and as the flashlight beam hit it, it opened its mouth and made that rattling call. From outside, answering calls echoed through the night. "They're coming," Jennifer said from behind me. "We need to go, now!" "The truck. Forget the truck. We run, right now." She was right. I could hear them outside, hear them gathering, hear them responding to the call. The house wouldn't hold. Not against all of them. I slammed the basement door and shoved a bookshelf in front of it. It wouldn't hold long, but it might buy us minutes. "Out the back," I said. "Stay together and stay quiet." We ran through the kitchen to the back door. I unlocked it, eased it open, and looked out. The backyard was clear. Beyond it, an alley. Beyond that, darkness. "Go," I whispered. We ran. Maddie and Jake were in front, Jennifer behind them, me bringing up the rear. We made it across the yard, into the alley, past 3 houses before we heard them behind us. They were coming, following the sound of our movement, our breathing, our footsteps, and there were a lot of them. We ran faster. Jake was struggling to keep up, his little legs pumping. I scooped him up without breaking stride, carrying him, my ribs screaming in protest. "There!" Jennifer pointed ahead. "The church!" A small white church sat at the end of the block, steeple rising to the night sky. The doors were closed, but maybe they'd be unlocked. We ran up the stairs. I tried the door. Locked. Fuck! Behind us, they were getting closer. I could see them now in the moonlight, a shambling mob of gray faces and reaching hands. Jennifer was pounding on the door. "Let us in, please, if anyone is in there." No answer. "We can't stay here," I said. "We need to keep moving." "Where?" Jennifer demanded. "Where the fuck are we supposed to go?" I looked around desperately. The church had a side entrance, a small door. I ran to it, tried the handle. It opened. "Here, come on!" We piled inside and I slammed the door behind us. There was a deadbolt and I threw it. The door was solid wood, reinforced. It would hold for a while. We were in a hallway that led deeper into the church. It was dark, the only light coming from the emergency exit signs. "Upstairs," Jennifer said, "to the steeple. If we can get up there, we can see what's around us. Maybe find a way out." We found the stairs and climbed. Up and up. Past the sanctuary, past offices, up a narrow spiral staircase that led to the bell tower. The view from the top was worse than I imagined. Cedar Falls was burning, fires everywhere, lighting up the sky. And in the streets below, thousands of them, not hundreds, thousands, shambling through the ruins of the city, searching for prey. "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered. We were surrounded. Every direction, as far as I could see. There were more of them, and they were converging on the church, drawn by our entry, by the noise we'd made. We were trapped. "The roof," I said. "Can we get to the roof?" There was a hatch above us. I pushed it open and we climbed out onto the steeple's roof. It was small, barely big enough for the 4 of us. Below, I could see them gathering around the church, pounding on the doors. "What do we do?" Maddie asked. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "Uncle Alex, what do we do?" I pulled her close, pulled Jake close too, held them both. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." Jennifer was looking at the burning city. "There's no FEMA camp, is there? No rescue, no cavalry coming over the hill?" "I don't think so, no." "So this is it? This is how it ends?" I looked down at the mob below. There had to be 100 of them now, maybe more. The church doors would hold for a while, but eventually they'd get in. Eventually they'd make it up here, and then it would be over. I'd promised Rachel I'd take care of the kids. I'd promised Jake we wouldn't turn into monsters. I couldn't keep both promises. Jennifer, I said quietly, can you give us a minute? I need to talk to Maddie and Jake alone. She understood. I could see it in her eyes. She nodded and moved to the other side of the small roof, giving us what privacy she could. I knelt down so I was at eye level with the kids. Maddie, Jake, I need you to listen to me carefully. We're trapped, aren't we? Maddie asked. She stopped crying. Her voice was calm, resigned. Too calm for a 9-year-old. Yeah, we are. Are we going to turn into monsters? I thought about lying. Thought about giving them false hope. But they deserve the truth. Not if I can help it. Maddie looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Okay? I don't want to be a monster, Uncle Alex. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be like Daddy. You won't, I promise. This was a promise I could keep. I looked at Jennifer. She was watching us, and she understood what I was about to do. She gave a small nod. I'm scared, Jake whispered. I know, buddy, me too. But it's going to be okay. You're going to go to sleep, and when you wake up, you'll be with your mom again, and your dad. The real dad, the one before all this. Will you be there too? Maybe. I hope so. I held them both close, and I told them stories. Stories about their mom, about when Rachel and I were kids, about the times we'd gone to the beach and built sandcastles and eaten ice cream until we were sick. Happy stories. Peaceful stories. And while I talked, I did what needed to be done. I was gentle about it. As gentle as I could be. They didn't suffer. I made sure of that. When it was done, I laid them side by side, like they were sleeping. Maddie's hand and Jake's, like they were curled together in the prepper's house. They looked peaceful. I hoped Rachel would forgive me. Jennifer was crying silently. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It was the right thing, the only thing. Below, the church doors finally gave way. I could hear them flooding inside, hear their feet on the stairs. They'll be here soon. How do you want to do this? Jennifer asked. I looked at the baseball bat, looked at the edge of the roof. It was a long fall. Long enough. I think I'm going to jump, I said. Yeah, me too. We stood at the edge, looking out at the burning city, at the end of the world. Do you think anyone's going to survive this? Jennifer asked. I don't know. Maybe somewhere. I hope so. I hope someone remembers us. Remembers what we were before. Yeah, me too. Below, the door of the steeple burst open. They were here. I took my last look at Maddie and Jake, sleeping peacefully. Then Jennifer and I held hands, and we stepped off the ledge. For a moment, I was flying. Then I wasn't. My name was Alex Mercer. I was 34 years old. I was a history teacher. 3 days ago, the world ended. I tried to save my sister. I tried to save her kids. I tried to do the right thing. I don't know if I succeeded, but I tried. And in the end, I suppose that's all you can do. The zombie apocalypse took 3 days to kill me. I hope whoever finds this, if anyone finds this, learns from our mistakes. I hope they survive. I hope they rebuild. I hope they remember we were human once, that we loved and hoped and tried our best in impossible circumstances. I hope. The journal entry ends here, the final words trailing off in an ink smear, as if the writer's hand had slipped. The notebook was found in the bell tower of St. Matthew's Church in Cedar Falls, Ohio, 6 months after the outbreak, alongside 4 bodies. 2 of them were peaceful. 2 had fallen from a great height. No other survivors were found in Cedar Falls. This is the last known account from early days of what would later be called the collapse. May they rest in peace. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I know a lot of my stories, they usually end with like a happy ending. And I know this is a like brutally sad ending. But I wanted I guess a hyper realistic story where realistically, I don't think most people would make it through a zombie apocalypse. I know for sure I'd probably be dead in like the first 2 or 3 days, just from trying to keep my kids alive and stuff like that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Come back next time for some more scary stories. I'm gonna take this whole story and compile it into one giant amalgamation of a story. So hope you guys enjoy that one too. Come back next time for some more scary stories. And as always, remember to face your fears.